Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 16th of February, comes to you from London. Start to the week is pretty mixed, but the thing I'm really watching is just this NASDAQ chart. We've got this downside target that's not yet activated on the chart. So just watching that. And of course, I can go to the short-term chart just to give me a little bit of a clue. This target would activate before on the 60-minute chart before that one on the daily. So even though you might not look short term, sometimes you just want to just see what the short term chart's telling you as to what might happen on the longer term chart. So this is the 60-minute chart. We actually, every chart in Updata has that medium term. The weekly chart is long term. So we, again, if we make a new high, we activate a new upside target, but we have to make a new high. That would turn from orange to green. That's the long term chart. The 60-minute chart, sorry, the daily chart is the medium-term chart, and the 60-minute chart is the short-term chart. So basically, we just have that multi-time frame view of what's going on. But this is what we're watching this week, just on the NASDAQ. The S&P future looks a little bit better. We don't have an unactivated downside target there, but on the 60-minute chart, we are just moving below the cloud. We've got a mixed targets, mixed picture, not quite as clear as the NASDAQ. And if we look in Europe at the moment, we've got FTSE future up this morning, but again, just downside target here, looking at the short-term chart. And if we look at the medium term, making new highs looks very strong indeed, as does the DAX. Japan, it just been the market to watch. That hit that upside target on that election euphoria. If we look at the short term, we just see some downside just creeping in, but the reality is it's still above the clouds. So Asian markets looking still pretty strong. And Australia, I know I've got some viewers in Australia. We have got an upside target there on the daily chart, on the medium term, and on the 60-minute chart. So just Australia just looking a little bit better. Currencies generally just not much change for Monday. Bitcoin, quite interestingly, we've got a new unactivated upside target. Would be a brave person to take that counter trend move. And here we're seeing the short-term chart. We're really seesawing through. And if you've done my training course, you'll know about pattern. You move it down, pattern, move out of the pattern, which way we're likely to move. So that's really quite key, that Bitcoin is just finding a floor, but is that an opportunity? We're still bearish below the cloud. So key point to remember there. Energy mix is pretty low today. I've done my morning call out to clients. Gas prices, multiple downside targets. We said on Friday in our morning call it would be a brave gas trader taking a long position, and we can see on the 1-minute charts how that's kicking in. And we are now making multi-week lows, and the same for US nat gas. So gas prices depressed. We're below $3 on US nat gas, and crude oil is just a little bit lower, but it's more of a mixed picture there. So key thing to remember there. Looking at some of the other commodities, cocoa still looking pretty grim. Downside targets below the cloud. Again, you could go to the short term, and there's showing there. So bearish if you like. And we can go to coffee. That's also looking mixed. And if I look at sugar, that has been looking pretty bearish, breaking that 14 level. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, you can see those targets being met. So you really can't ignore the targets. Looking at some of the soft commodities, grains, wheat looking pretty good, which is waiting for an upside target to be activated there. And corn has activated upside targets, so they're looking a little bit stronger. Now, gold is the one that a lot of people ask me about. Key question here is, will we make a lower low? We're making potentially a lower high, a lower low. That would be a little bit bearish. You have to go to the 60-minute chart. 5,100 is the level that we're just really struggling to break at the moment. And until we break that, calling a recovery on gold is pretty tricky. And the same for silver. This is actually a little bit more bearish, not actually managing to test a key level. but will follow gold. And again, platinum just looking a little bit worrying there as well. So it's a bit early to say. Now, if we look at some of the Dow constituents, I do like to look at the US bellwethers, because basically these decide really what happens in global markets. They're such large cap securities. And we can see that Apple, they were down 2%. Real risk here on the medium term chart of a lower high, lower low. So that is just looking a little bit worrying. We were below the cloud, we've sort of come back, but if we make a lower low, then we have clearly turned through the cloud. The 60-minute chart, we did have an upside target, but we are back below the cloud there. So short term, that's bearish. It's not necessarily a buy or a sell. It's just the state of the trend. Nvidia, I've covered many times. 170 is the key level to watch here. We are rolling over and through the cloud. The high was back in October, so it's a little bit of a concern. We're still not managing to get through there. Walmart, that's been the star performer. Targets all met here. If we look at the long-term weekly chart, that target was given in the middle of 2024 at $70 to $139, and we're currently sitting at $134. So really significant. You can't ignore these targets when you see them. And the short-term targets are even higher. They will kick in before the longer term. So we are seeing quite an interesting picture building across the board here, but it's still a mixed picture in the US, and the defensives are performing better. Looking at the London Stock Exchange, first off, we just do a percentage change on the charts. We see here 3i is the best performer this morning. That's looking a little bit like a recovery. So really quite interesting there, but recoveries can take their time. Just you do have to be aware that we've got to just watch those targets, and do watch them on long time frames. The short-term chart will tell you first of any risk. London Stock Exchange was in the news last week. Still have got a downside target there on the medium-term chart, so it's not yet a done thing that is a recovery. But of course, that activist investor is now creating some news flow. BAE Systems, interestingly, looking quite strong there on the medium-term chart. Defense stocks in play at the moment, so that's quite good. Remember that you can hit on any chart, you can just hit the price targets, just hit the T key, and it will put the targets on for you. So it's all rules based, and very popular. Looking at the downside, we've got some of the defensives all kicking, just pulling back. We're seeing some of the RELX, for example, they were looking like building a little bit of a recovery this morning, and then that's all just faded away. So, but we are seeing some quite big moves here. Tesco's just breaking to a new high. Upside target was given back in May. So we do just have to just go through the stocks. St James's Place had a really big fall recently. Where does that leave us? Look at the 60-minute chart. Now we're just got to see whether we can recover from that. Stocks generally don't recover from dramatic falls like this unless the story can be unwound. And so that's really quite a key thing to watch there. Anyway, that's it for today. Have a great day. Until tomorrow, bye for now.